Holly Cotton here, and I am so excited for our guest today. So, not only is she a mother, a wife, a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, and a speaker, Samantha Tradelius is the her. she she is definitely, when you see that hashtag, this is her. Samantha should come up on every aspect of that. So, welcome, Samantha. I'm super excited to hear all of the great things that you're
Awesome.
doing.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so also Samantha has a podcast show and all kind of other things too. So we'll share that at the end. But first of all, Samantha, I know that you have a very interesting and unique story about how you started as just regular Samantha to all the great things that Samantha is doing today. So give us your story of how you started and how you became all of these great other avenues that you have
It's
right
been a
now.
windy journey, as I think most of us gals have. I always love talking to women too, because the path is never a straightforward one. I have spent 25 years in the insurance industry as a professional in risk management, anything from education to agency ownership, being an entrepreneur, being a salesperson, having to like go sell to eat is, I've done all that. And when that wasn't enough, I decided that starting a nonprofit made sense to add to my mix of things I do. So I started the Sparkle Foundation 7 years ago, which we'll dive into a little bit, I'm sure, about the work we do supporting single mothers and their children all over California. Let's see what else. I've got two kids, so I'm a mom. I've got a 10 and almost 13-year-old, and and they're girls. I say often that if I can make it through this stage of life, I can make it through anything. I'm a wife. I've been married for 14, going on 15 years here. And I have a podcast. I've written a book. I have a blog. And I really do kind of live each day finding ways to have purpose and support women along the way.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you also mentioned that about just in the insurance industry and sales, because I think that whenever you are in sales, you started just develop this like hustler mindset, and that allows you to do all these other things because you know what it's like. You learn how to talk to people, you learn how to network, and then that sort of just pushes you into doing this. You may not even have known you were going in that direction, but you were selling for this to get this outcome, and then now you got pushed into that. So let's go back to the business and let's talk about how you have a successful 8-figure insurance agency.
Yeah, so my career in insurance actually began. My family owns a licensing school for insurance and education, and that's kind of where I began my career at the young age of 17. When a teacher didn't show up to teach class, and there was a whole room full of people that were looking to be taught, and I knew that that was what put food on my family's table. And so when there was no teacher, I thought, like somebody's got to get in there. So I grabbed a book, walked in, and that was the first time I ever taught a class and really the fake it till you make it moment. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew enough to get by. And I knew enough because I'd heard conversations about, whatever was the topic. So I realized I enjoyed that. And I put myself through college teaching insurance at different levels, whether it was pre-licensing, getting people through the insurance test, and loved it. When I graduated college, it was time to like get a job because mom and dad weren't ready to retire. And so I opened up an insurance agency with my father, which was called Strickler Insurance, which was selling small property and casualty, like home, auto, renters, a little bit of business insurance. Ended up meeting my husband through that, and obviously, fell in love, and life happens. And so I ended up moving to San Francisco. And when I had met him, he had just started commercial coverage. Like literally, it was him and a gateway computer in his basement. And he was flexing like he was Mr. Big Stuff. And it was like, dude, it's just you down here in the basement. So
I love I love that though. I love when people sell like where they started from, like that. It's just always inspiring. But in the time, it ain't fun being poor in
it
that
is
time.
not. And
But
eating
yes.
those mustard sandwiches, as he will always say, his career was definitely different. And here we were, both these insurance professionals, and our worlds were aligning and colliding. So I ended up moving to the Bay Area back in 2006, I think. I was about 26. And kind of just started helping him run the company. Like, he was really good at sales. I was really good at the other stuff with the employees and the back end and all the things that you don't realize that you need to know how to do when you own a business. Like the two of us really complemented each other and built this incredible business. commercial coverage. And we, did that for 20 plus years. I mean, fighting the fight every day, getting up, selling insurance, having employees, hiring, firing, smiling, dialing. Man, we did it all. We did it together. And so my career, had so many hills and valleys and learning experiences as entrepreneurs do, because there's no like how to. I mean, you could read every book in the world, but there's really still no how to when you're in the nitty gritty of it. In an ever evolving industry as in financial services. I mean, we were, in 2008 when the market was crashing. I mean, people still were buying insurance. And then here we are in 2023. And now the insurance market's having its own flex of issues. So I think really be able to still be standing after all that is pretty awesome. But then also, all the trials and tribulations that go along with it have taught me so much and made me the woman that I am today. And it's not been an easy road, I'll tell you that, but it's been a fun one.
So I wanted to also ask you about that because I know you mentioned that about the winding road and how entrepreneurship, it just seems like having a 9 to 5, it's just like you just chick every year you get a 3% increase or whatever it is. It just seems like it's a straight line. And then entrepreneurial world is like zigzag. It's like the roller coaster going through, then you go through the cave of unknown despair and all of that. So when you're doing what you're doing now, like we'll talk about all of the things that you're doing to give back, especially to women, but what were some of the things that you picked up that you were like, wow, you know what, I want to show women this, or you know what, at some point when I get a company or when I start a nonprofit or whatever, I want women to know this. Like, were you going through things where you were like, wow, I wish someone had shown me this, or I need to be the change for this?
Well, I think with everything, it's almost like an Indiana Jones movie, entrepreneurship. Like you're falling off the cave, the boulders coming at you, the knives are being thrown. I mean, that's just like kind of part of the whole deal. And it's hard and it's exciting and it's scary and it's all the things all at once, all the time. I think as far as, empowering people and having, employees and different things is, one of the things I really think was a big success factor for me was doing a lot of personal development and really finding out how people tick and why they tick the way they do. So when you have a person who's in a role and they're struggling or they're not doing a good job, really realizing, hey, maybe this person doesn't just suck, but maybe like they're not in the right role. So really understanding and doing a lot of seminars and reading a lot of books about the mind and, put the right person in the right role to succeed. And I really felt that was kind of a power move for me because it not only helped my business succeed because then I was getting the right output, but it was also seeing people develop and grow in their roles, which I think is the coolest thing to watch like from an employer standpoint. And when it came to my clients, I mean, I really started gearing towards and focusing on women-owned businesses. Why? Because when I would go out there and network, I would connect with women because there wasn't a lot of women in my space and the role that I was at the time when I started. So they were excited to talk to me and I was excited to talk to them and get to be involved in their businesses as far as placing their insurance and growing with them and changing as they changed. So a lot of those skill sets and things I think really have trickled into the other scopes of the businesses that I'm involved in. But again, I mean, it's been a lot of trial and error and just a lot of, really kind of digging deep and figuring out like what I'm good at and then helping people be good at the things that I'm not good at to help us all kind of be better, if that makes sense.
I love that, and I love the way that you worded it too. Like you were like, hey, so maybe that person doesn't really suck like I think they do. Maybe they just aren't in the most productive role. Maybe they aren't. I always say, my career is I'm a master. I have a master's in nursing, so I'm like, listen, I will save your life. I'll do CPR. Do not make me do geography and find something on the map, and don't make me do math. Now, I will do anything else. So if you put me in one of those roles, you're going to think I suck. But boy, if you put me somewhere where I'm teaching or talking or whatever, or doing CPR, I'm going to be like the employee of the year. So I love how you phrase that. And so is that what propelled you to write a book? And can you tell us about your book?
Yeah, so the book was kind of a fun little COVID project, while we were all sitting at home licking our wounds because we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't talk to anybody. I was turning 40 and I was really reflecting on this person I'd become and really the types of road, blocks and maps and different things that really helped develop this person I am today. And it was really based on these individuals around me and these incredible women that have helped me get to be this person today. And so what I started off with was just a Facebook post. It was Women's Month of March. And every day I'd post a picture and tell a little short story about an incredible woman in my life, whether it was my mother, my grandmother, my colleagues, mentors, these amazing women. And about mid-month, I was like, hey, I think this could be a book. So I reached out, I found a publisher and I found a book editor and I said, here's what I'm thinking. I want to tell short stories celebrating women that are change makers in their own right. Because as I have found, unless you have a huge story or a lot of resources or a huge tragedy, a lot of times your stories don't get to be told. And women every day are waking up, they're dynamic and they're doing amazing things. So let's celebrate it. So I penned it, I got it all done. And yeah, I launched the book at the end of 2021. And the coolest part about it was when we did the book launch, I got to have all these women there that were in the book. And it was like the Avengers were assembling. I mean, I tell you, the superpower of people in that room was just so incredible. And I felt so touched and honored just to be able to share space with these gals, but let alone let them know how much I appreciated them for, what they've brought into my life.
I love that. And, I always say when I'm talking to especially to male guests, and I'm like, listen, I'm like a feminist, but I think that I'm not a feminist in where people think that you're going to bash a man by empowering women. And I love that you said that and that you wrote a book, and that's kind of been your mission, is to highlight these women and expose these stories, because there are so many phenomenal women, and people have to realize that highlighting one group doesn't mean that you're dismissing another group. So doing that, there was actually, like you said, there's hold on, what's going on here? This is a little niche right here that hasn't been touched, because unless you have this huge story, unless you've been in People magazine, but sometimes it's just the basic thing. Someone that overcame depression, someone that started a nonprofit, someone that, opened a school. You may not even know that was a woman or that did that. So I love that. I love that. And is that how the whole Sparkle Foundation was put together, or what is Sparkle Foundation?
So Sparkle was something I started doing 20 years ago, believe it or not. This is my 20th year. I'm like 43 almost, and I feel like I've lived 1,000 lives when I start to say I've done something for 20 years.
You still look 20, thanks, so you're doing something
right. So when I was about 23, I was starting my insurance career, and I also was like, hey, I want to do something to serve my community. Started doing some research with nonprofits. It wasn't really finding what I wanted, because a lot of these organizations, as we find even today, are not super transparent on how they're spending their funds. So the little bit of money I had, I was like, I want this to go to X, Y, or Z. So I found a program through the post office at the time called the Dear Santa program, and kids would write letters to Santa. And you could go, I lived in LA at the time, you could go to the post office in Valencia, and they had literally barrels of letters, and they'd take your fingerprints, your ID, make sure you weren't a psycho, and you could go get the letter with the kid's address on it. And the first couple years I did, 1 or 2 families, and then it kind of snowballed into 5 or 6. And, 13 years later or so, we were serving 17 families out of my house here. And I had women wrapping gifts everywhere. They were in the bathroom, they were outside. It was insane. And so at that point, it was really apparent, oh, yeah, we could probably do more and have more of a footprint if I became a little bit more of a legit organization. But I know how to sell insurance. I didn't know how to do nonprofit stuff or start one or run one or any of that. But in true Samantha fashion, I was like, well, if it means we're going to do more, let's figure it out. So I did. And in 2016, we were gifted our 501c3 status, and away we went. So we've been an organization for 7 years, and our focus is single moms. And the reason single moms was because my grandma was a single mom in the 1950s, raising 3 kids in an era that did totally not embrace the single mother journey. And as I was getting out there and reading these stories about these families and finding families to help, these women were just like my grandma, right? But they were never asking for help. And so with the Christmas gifting, you could show up and give a mom food and a stroller and sheets and pots and pans and the things that many of us take for granted. But for her, it was game changing. So year to date, Sparkle served over 10,000 lives. We do 4 things. We have our holiday gift drive, which again is my mainstay, where we started 20 years ago. And that we typically serve about 80 families all over California. We have our backpack drive, which we just wrapped last month. We did 5,000 backpacks this year, which we stuff them, we buy them, and we get them out into the community. So those are in the hands of 5,000 children to start school correctly in August. We have our enrichment scholarships, which we provide money to single mothers who need a little extra assistance. Like, they can put food on the table, they can, put the roof over the head, but now their son or daughter wants to play baseball and it's $700. And it's like, we're going to eat or we're going to play ball. And that's never a decision that somebody should have to make, because as you know, the extracurriculars are so key for these kids. So we provide funding for that. And on average, we send about 75 to 100 kids through different programs. And then our most recent effort has been microloans for single moms. So imagine a mom who has a business or she wants to start a business and she needs some capital. Traditional financing is just not an option. So the microloan program is an interest-free option for her. We basically give you money, but then we want you to pay it back within 18 to 36 months, interest-free. And the reason is so there's a little skin in the game. So it's not just like we're handing out free money. We want you to succeed. And along with that comes mentorship. So all these years of business that I have and these amazing contacts that I have are brilliant businesswomen who would love to help another woman get to where she wants to go. So we are able to plug holes where our candidates need assistance. And we funded our first loan. It was totally successful. The program works. And now we're getting ready to launch out round 2, probably beginning of next year. So yeah, that's what we do.
Wow. Well, you're like, yeah, and that's it. That's everything you said in its own entity is huge. So the fact that you have 4 things that are your initiatives is definitely impressive. Now, one of the questions that I wanted to kind of circle back to whenever we were talking, and I know I was kind of saying it being jovial about it, was about putting people in the right area that they should be in. So I know one of the things that you kind of talk about in your mentorship is stepping into who you are and leveraging your unique skills. So can you elaborate more into that? Because, we're trying to get free information for people who maybe don't know Samantha yet.
Going back to just finding what makes you tick and finding what is a success point for you. For me, my secret sauce is people and connection. And so, that's like, I'm driven, my love language is social ability. So I can read a room, I can understand people, I can understand your story, I can hear it, I can figure out how I can be helpful, and also find ways for you to help other people, which I think is such a great gift. Because so many people want to help, they just don't know how to help others. And so being fueled by purpose and passion, I think is something that's so great when you're out there. Finding your secret sauce. I mean, we all have it in us. It's our average power. I remember my girlfriends and I used to joke around in our 20s, like, well, my average power is this and mine is that. Mine's always been connection. So for me, I know that is where I will always put my energies into, where someone else may be really good at, strategy, or somebody else may be incredible at, helping that medical field. Like, you're talking about nursing. Like, I'm like, my mom's a nurse and I'm like, oh, no, thank you. Like, that is not a language I speak. Blood and guts, people like barfing on the street. No, I'm out.
Don't worry. That's my daughter
right?
Also.
I'm out of here. So I really think digging in and figuring out what makes you tick is the first starting point to then elaborating that into the different aspects of your life.
I'm taking notes too, Samantha, because I also, when I ask questions too, I'm like, you know what? Let me write this down for myself as well. Now, I know, so a lot of the things that you're doing, like you said, are about single moms, and I'm a mom. I know the struggle. I've been a single mom as well. Thankfully, we survived the teen years. No one is in jail, thank goodness. But there is something to say about a single mom but also a mom that's also in a relationship that's married, cohabitation, whatever it is. Even when you have a partner, there is something about a mother that's not a father. Dads are great. We love y'all. Thank you guys for chipping in. We appreciate it. But a mother, it just, for whatever reason, you're constantly worrying about this. And not only that, but I think that moms we still have those gender roles of we need to be the nurturer. We need to make sure that the kid gets their lunch. They get from point A to point B. Dads have that gender role of I need to be a provider. I'm going to go to work. Mom's going to figure everything else out. So what happens is that we push our passions to the side. We may push our dreams to the side. We are like, I can't be an entrepreneur. I have a kid to take care of. Or maybe you have a husband that has a crazy work schedule, or you are a single mom. So you're like, this is not my time. I can't do it. So I know that is a huge, huge disparity in successful entrepreneurial women and the women who are looking for your advice and your help. So how do you help women navigate that? Because of course, like you said, hey guys, I have it all. But then most women are like, well, I'll never have it all. And you're like, no, 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 you can. Let me tell you how. So what do you tell
So
those
it's interesting. You'll see behind my desk here is a quote that my girlfriend said to me 20 years ago. And she says, you can have it all, but you're the chooser of how you want to live your life, right? So sitting here, and what you're saying is these roles that are kind of assumed on us as women, like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to take the kids to school, pick the kids up, do the things, all the things. And life now is never like life has ever been when it comes to parent taking care of kids, because it's 40 different directions all the time. And then you go to bed and you just feel like sometimes you were the hero and sometimes you were just the zero. And it's such a, like, I don't know if we can swear here. Can we swear here? It's a shitty place to be. I will say it frankly. As a woman, it sucks. And it's not a great way to go to bed or even wake up in the morning. So a lot of times people will say, well, how do you balance it? And first of all, balance is like a dumb word that should just get taken off the table, because there is no true balance when it comes to life. Life is chaotic. Life is messy. Life requires different things at different times. So the way that I tend to think about it is, what's going to be my buckets today, right? Some days are going to be mom buckets, where my mom categories are going to be way fuller than other times. Other times are going to be full sparkle. Sometimes are insurance. Sometimes are, different things require different energies. And some days those buckets are going to be filled differently, and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just, you got to approach each day with like, here's what I got to get done. Here's what's important to me. And I think if anything has come out of the pandemic, of this, like, when we were home, we were all like really digging in and figuring out who we were and finding out things about ourselves or our schedules that just weren't serving us. And, being those yes gals that were saying yes to the PTA and yes to the bake sale. And, oh God, I got a big presentation. I mean, it's just like, why are we doing all this to ourselves unnecessarily? Do the things you want to do that bring you joy. And when it comes to parenting, I'm a fan of incorporating my girls in my world. So my kids sparkle with me. My kids help me run an assembly line. My kids help me plan events. When it comes to Christmas time, my daughters are down here filling out spreadsheets and understanding and communicating and being involved, because guess what? They are watching everything we're doing, and we're really getting them ready for the big world. So, you being all stressed out and overwhelmed, they're watching that, and that's not what you want them to grow up to be like. Now, when you go to bed and you shut the door and you want to scream the F word into your pillow, it's a different story. We all are that woman, at least once a week. It's fine. But really just going back to like realizing balance doesn't exist unless you create it. And the way you're going to create it is by filling your buckets in the way that makes sense for you. And that will change every single day.
That is such a great analogy. I love that. I love that. I love that. You should write a book, Samantha.
maybe another one. I don't know.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Okay. So peeling back the curtain on becoming a philanthropist and starting your own nonprofit organization, because I feel like once we get to these points in life where we have done certain things, that it's our opportunity to give back. And sometimes by giving back might just be sharing information. It may not be I'm giving you money, I'm giving you a job or whatever. Sometimes it's just as simple as, let me give you some knowledge. Let me give you some information. Let me tell you how to do what I did. So what is your advice for those women who are like, you know what, I want to give back, or men? Because I'm sorry, I'm on our feminist train right now. We're women empowering today, but men too. So what do you have advice for them whenever they're like, okay, well, how do I start this? Or what do I need to do the things that Samantha did?
I think first and foremost is you find what is your why. What's your passion? Like, what are you into? Is it kids? Is it education? Is it the ocean? Is it the nature? I mean, whatever it is, there's so many different ways to get involved with different causes that speak to you. And when it comes to, I get asked a lot with, how do I start a nonprofit? And my first moment of advice is there something else out there right now that exists that you can plug into? Because starting a nonprofit, as I learned the very hard way, as I sit in this seat 7 years later, and then, having 13 more years of doing the work behind that, it's a grind. It's a lot of work. It's intense. So one of the things I didn't mention to you is, not finding what I wanted and then creating it because I was not super excited about the transparency. So Sparkle is 100% in and 100% out. We don't have any paid staff. So everything you see, all the output, everything that we do is all volunteer driven. 100% of every dollar in goes right back out. So a lot of that work, is on all of us on the board. And a lot of it sits on my shoulders as the director because that's the job I do and I like it. But it's a lot, and it's not really a reality for a lot of people that are in careers and have young children. I mean, when they're later in life, that's a different story. But once you find that, hey, there's nothing out there that I want to do, then dive in and see, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want this to look like? What is this going to feel like? Who are the type of people that I want to be on my board that are going to help this organization grow? How am I going to get money? Because that's a whole nother bag. Are you going to focus on the grant avenue? Are you going to go grassroots? Are you going to hit the pavement? I mean, there's so many different avenues. And at the end of the day, it's like, what's your mission and your vision and your purpose? Because that part of it, I think, is so hard because you want to, once you get in, you're like, oh, I want to help this person and I want to help that person. And saying no is so difficult, but you've really got to focus on where your success is and where you can be impactful. And, having that firm focus and not trying to go right or left, just go straight and make sure that you can, do what you set out to do. But again, I think the best thing to do if you're thinking about starting something is get involved with an organization that's existing. And then, if it's not serving the community or the need that you want at that point, then go start your own thing.
That is great advice. And I also love that you did say that, because I think that whenever people have like this whole passion for giving back and they want to be the change and they want to do this, it's almost like if you like, for me, I'm going to give an analogy. I love dogs and I love puppies. So if you bring me into a pet adoption center, I'm going to want to take all the dogs home.
Yeah.
And they're looking at you with the side, this little sad eye, and they're like, but why don't you want me? And that's how community service is. And when you start having these things, because if you're not saying no, everyone's going to pull you, because now you see, oh my gosh, but these people need me over here, but these people need me over here. So I love that you said that, that you identified that the importance of finding your mission statement and make sure that you're aligning with that, because if not, you're going to be burnt out, you're going to be poor because you're going everywhere, but also you're not going to really make that impact, rather than you finding that niche. And now you're like, hey, this is my mission. I'm going for, like you said, we're going to start with the Dear Santa family. We're going to do one family. Now we're going to keep going and elaborating on that. So I love that you said that. I love that. Okay. So Samantha, everyone loves you now. They want to follow you. They want to like you. They want to buy your book. They're like, I need to do that. Oh, no. Before we go into that podcast, I almost forgot about Inspire Her. So, or is it inspired with the
It's inspired. So it's like you're inspired by her, right? Inspired.
Okay. Got it. So tell us about the podcast, and then we're going to come back and do all your social.
So the podcast was another COVID baby. My girlfriend Stacy and I have been friends for 20 years. We decided, again, we're all sitting at home feeling sorry for ourselves, and we were like, we can't talk to anybody, but we know so many cool ladies that do cool stuff. Like, let's start a podcast. So we had no idea what we were doing. We just went on Zoom, hit record, and away we went. To date, we have recorded 150 episodes and interviewed women all over the world, not just here in the States, but Canada and Europe and Australia, like everywhere. And it's basically the storyline of just kind of like what the book was. Like, unless you have these huge stories or lots of budget, your tale doesn't get told. And we want to share your story your way. So we've interviewed women that are makers and creators and activists and, gals that create a product because there's nothing in the market, or women that are out beating the pavement, trying to make change in their community, lawyers, educators, medical professionals. I mean, just the most insane women. And every single one of them has these total windy paths of how they become who they are. And maybe they had a career and they did very well in it. And then one day they go, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do this. I want to make clothes. I want to design an item. And, hearing the journey of how they get there is so awesome. Every week we release a new episode. They're 30 minutes. They're real, they're raw, they're unedited, mainly because, number one, we don't know how to edit, which after 3 years, we could definitely figure it out. But what we found was that life itself isn't edited. So why should the conversations? And it's really just her telling her story. And, we'll keep doing it as long as people want to keep listening and people want to keep sharing. And we're booked out through the rest of the year. And it's, something we both like. It's a lot of work, as you know, but it's such a rewarding part of my day to sit down with a woman like yourself and just hear her story.
Yes, I love that. I know I love when I hear people's story. And I think it's funny too, because just like I know you have your talking points, you have a bio, you have all this. So when you go on, it's like you feel like you've told the story 1,000 times. So for you, it's just like, oh, okay. And then you hear people's feedback to your story and you're like, oh my God, what? And that's how people, I always say, oh, it started, this whole thing I started was 2019 because I decided to write a book about cancer. And you're like, wait, you had cancer? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'm also a breast cancer survivor. And wait, what? What, and it's just so funny, but it's like, yeah, that windy road is definitely so true, because every day I feel like I'm going down a different avenue, or I meet someone that inspires me to do something else, or I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing, but now that's a thing. I think I want that as a thing too. So I love that you, and the good thing about women, empowered women especially, is that we're used to being multitaskers. We can handle all these things. So for us, I can take a little bit of what you have and instill that into me. I can take a little bit of that and instill that into me. And you don't take anything away from another woman. It's all of us being great women together, all of us being empowered and being in collaboration. So that's the great thing I love about what you're doing in the community and everything that you're sharing. So now, Samantha, tell us about the book, how we can follow you, the podcast, get in touch with you. No stalkers allowed,
No
but only
stalkers, no stalkers allowed. It's super easy. It's just samanthastradelius.com. That'll get you to my website where you can link up with Sparkle, podcast. I do a monthly S list, which are 3 she brands. They're lady-made products for us ladies that I don't get paid to talk about. I just, like this month I've got a candle and some lotion and, stuff that's cool with a cool story behind it. And then on Instagram, it's just my name at Samantha Tradelius. And, there you can follow my crazy life with my kids and my Sparkle and my insurance and all the things.
I love that. Well, you definitely inspire. And did you say the name of your book, Samantha?
Oh, my book is called Impact, and it's the story of change makers and women just doing cool stuff.
And where can they get your book? Anywhere
it's on Amazon. Books? That's one spot. Or if you want, on my website, you can buy it and you'll get a nice little note from me directly. Either way, Amazon's probably the easiest way.
Okay, I love that. I know I hate that I have to give them free promo when I say the same thing. I'm like, but it's available on all platforms. So you can go to walmart.com, target.com, barnesandnobles.com. But I know y'all love Amazon. So I'm like, dang it. They dropped another free promo for Amazon.
They make it so easy, It's like, how can you, it's just, if it's easy, we'll do it, right? If it's hard, people tend to kind of steer away from it. So
I know. I'm guilty of it too. So That is Samantha Tradelius, and her last name is Tradelius. For anyone who does not go and read the podcast note, that's where all her information and her website and all of that will be tagged. So thank you so much, Samantha, for inspiring us today. We definitely appreciate it, and I hope you guys are taking all of these gems that she gave you for free, and you are going to be the greatest version of yourself today as well. So thank you, Samantha.
Thanks, girl.
All right. So